What's up, everybody? So today I'm actually going to be going through and removing a couple of old hive stands and actually sort of discussing a little bit about hive placement, especially here in North Carolina. Obviously hive placement is going to be a little bit different just depending on your area and depending on where you're at, temperatures, things of that nature. So I've also got my little buddy here. Say hi, Mason. Mason, say hi. Hey. I've got him out here helping me. He's just hanging out with me today. So, but anyways, gonna kind of go over a little bit of that and also just a little bit of the history with my grandfather and sort of the reasons why I'm kind of getting into this and sort of starting this beekeeping adventure. So, and gonna show you where I'm gonna be keeping the bees. So be sure to stick around and we'll go over all that and you guys will go take a little sneak peek. Alright guys, so this right here was actually where my grandfather kept his bees back many years ago. So there's actually a couple of old hive stands that are back up in here. Some old metal ones that he had that he kept his bees on. I can remember back as a kid literally like walking sort of just right up over there to where the roadway comes in. That was our house back over there back years ago, and just like sort of standing there watching him do his bees, keep his bees, pull supers off. And so it was always like really exciting for me as a kid to watch him actually work them. But pretty much eventually these old hive stands are going to come out. He built a little lane right in through here where he kind of kept them sort of hidden back. Had a little bit of shade here from the trees. Of course the sun rises from back over there, so it faces the hive the entire time, just about throughout the day, and then sets right back over there. But so some of these are actually going to be coming out, and I'm actually going to be replacing them with some newer stands. He also had some barbed wire up here to kind of keep bears and stuff like that and critters out. We'll eventually sort of be restoring some of that and putting a little bit of time and effort back into that just to kind of help kind of keep the hives protected. But so yeah, so we're going to go on in, and I've got a grinder today to actually help me grind down some of the metal legs on some of these stands, and we're going to pull one of them out, and I'm actually going to be replacing it with one that I built myself. So stay tuned. We'll go ahead and get started on that. Okay, so got the old hive stand out of the ground. I mean, quite literally, like that was one thing that I was not anticipating with trying to remove these things, is that thing was buried probably that far in the ground. And one end of them actually ended up snapping. You can see that. And so I'll probably end up having to take the grinder just to get that out and just make sure that's not a trip hazard or anything. But it's out, so I can actually start to move in a few more. But this right here is the hive stand that I made back in spring, summer. So it's just a kind of a standard, just wooden hive stand. Made with 4x4s and 2x6s. But I left in my previous video, I actually left the schematics and stuff like that I actually found online from another beekeeper on how to make it. I'll leave that link as well in the description below. But super easy, super simple. Probably whenever I get the hives, I'm going to space them out, probably on one of the hive stands back out through there, that center one, and this one right here. The reason why I had to take that first one out is because it was extremely unlevel. It had pretty much sunken down into the ground. It was so grossly unlevel that I really just didn't want to deal with having to level it back out on the hive. So, but anyways, so that's got that. So kind of going into a little bit about hive placement, as well as, you know, just sort of like picking a good spot to place your hives. So here in North Carolina, temperatures don't, especially in the Appalachian Mountains, temperatures don't get down too cold like what you get up north. But one of the things was placing a hive in direct sunlight. I'm kind of choosing to kind of put them in the shade just a little bit, just because it does get pretty humid and does get pretty hot here in the summer months. But I think if I was to literally put them down into a field, you know, down on the other end or the edge of the property, they'd be totally fine. But a lot of hive placement really sort of depends upon the location, temperatures, things of that nature. One other thing is making sure that you have the hive facing southeast. That way it gets a full day's worth of sun. Here, actually, you know, I mean, my grandfather had a good idea where he placed his hives, you know, previously. So I'm kind of following in his footsteps on that. But making sure that they face that southeast direction, making sure that whenever the sun rises and it hits the front end of that hive, it kind of wakes them up a little bit. It starts to heat up the hive, letting them know like, hey, it's time to get out of there and get to work. The other thing is a wind barrier, you know, and putting them up here in the woods. It doesn't really, here, it gets windy on some days, but it's not too terribly bad, not unless it's like severely cold, like the weather that we just had. We had a couple of days here where it got down to, you know, below zero, and which was really kind of odd for us. But I remember one day it was so windy, and I thought to myself, I was like, man, if I had bees right now, I'd be having to insulate them. I'd be having to, you know, do all of that and try to keep the wind off of them. But good thing is that there is tree coverage, you know, for the most part around every bit of this right through here. So, you know, I'm not too concerned about it during the winter months, well, not so much during the winter months, but during the summer and stuff like that, whenever we get thunderstorms, something blowing through and blowing something off. I will be securing them just to make sure, you know, I'd 10 to 1 rather take that precaution and know that I took it, and as opposed to get out there one day and realize, oh gosh, there's a beehive that's tipped over.
Hey,
what's up?
Can you hold my water, please?
You can sit down.
Okay.
Yeah, sit down over there on the new house stand. Go sit down. Joys of parenthood. Go sit down over there, big guy. You got it. It's okay. Go, don't stick your shoe down there. Go put it over there on the beehive, or on the bee stand. I'm actually going to be getting him a little beekeeper suit, so watch me work them and stuff like that. Go sit down. The other thing is food source. Here where I've actually got my bees here, there's about 19 acres, I'd say roughly about 19 acres maybe, of just forest and land and stuff like that. There is a couple of fields. Now, one thing to really kind of consider is that bees will travel, you know, up to 5 miles to get to a food source, whether that's nectar, you know, whatever. However, you know, the thing is about it is where you place them, you don't want to place them so far out that they're having to expend energy and expend resources trying to get the food back to the hive. I'd actually considered probably seeding some clover, some wildflower, things of that nature on our property, kind of get that up and going. The other thing is providing a water source. Now, my granddad, whenever I can remember him putting up bird baths and stuff like that around his hives, and we have a stream that runs through, but it's roughly about a mile off or so. But he would actually use these bird baths, and whenever I was going through and I was clearing some of the leaves and some of the overgrown stuff up in here out, I actually found one of his old bird bath stands, and I'll probably end up discarding it, as much as that, you know, kind of breaks my heart to do that, but just because it's so old, and I couldn't even find the actual base for the bird bath well, I found the base, but I couldn't find the actual bird bath itself, so I think at some point it broke. But going through here and clearing a lot of this stuff out, you know, I found everything from, you know, an old hive top that had rotten and everything else. Even found like an old rusted queen excluder, and, you know, a queen cage and stuff like that. So it was really kind of like taking me kind of back down memory lane. But so, you know, that's a little bit. The biggest things is really sort of, you know, making sure that your bees have enough proper spacing between hives. You know, I'm probably going to end up spacing mine out about 3 feet apart after I get them. I'm going to give them a little bit of time, do some orientation flights, and actually, you know, realize where their home is at before I move them a little bit closer together. But also making sure they're getting plenty of sunlight. That way they get woken up early and they're getting out and they're getting ready to go and get on with their day. You know, facing, making sure you're keeping them out of, like, you know, the harsh winds and stuff like that is one thing. That's not only going to mess with their flight path, with like flying and them getting out of the hive, but it's also going to protect the hive as well. You know, once you start stacking supers and stuff like that on it, there's going to be a lot more surface area there for the hive to tip over in case a windstorm or something like that comes through. You know, food sources, like I said, I'm probably going to be sowing some clover, sowing some wildflower and stuff like that on our property, just to kind of give them a little bit more of a nearby source of nectar and source of food, and water. I will be ended up putting something in place a little bit closer to the hive that gives them a little bit more water, probably just using a rain barrel, stuff like that, to kind of get a little bit of water, and I can just add it to it as I need it. But that's pretty much it with that. You know, going into a little bit about why I'm doing this, and, you know, sort of my background in history, a little bit with bees, and I know this is the first time I'm beekeeping, so this is going to be like my first year. But, you know, I can remember whenever I was a kid, you know, going to school and stuff like that, and both my parents worked, And I can remember getting off the school bus just right down the road down here and walking up to my grandparents' house. My nanny and Papaw, they were, my grandfather, he farmed the land, stuff like that. He had crops, you know, he kept bees, he made wine. He did a lot of things and really was self-sufficient in that. You know, but I can remember coming up and then, you know, getting to my grandparents' house and going downstairs, you know, asking where my Papaw was at because I wanted to hang out with him. And going downstairs and he would actually be extracting honey. And, you know, that was those moments and stuff like that where he taught me about bees, where he, you know, told me everything that consists of a beehive. And, you know, and obviously extracting the honey, that was, you know, those were moments that I'll never forget as, you know, as an adult. You know, I can even remember him, he would have this huge centrifuge that slung the honey out. And whenever he would turn his back to start filling up jars, I'd stick my finger down in the centrifuge and, you know, lick some of the honey out of it, and then he obviously caught me a time or two and he'd get your hand out of the honey. So I was literally like Pooh Bear from Winnie the Pooh. So, but anyways, you know, that's sort of my reason why. You know, it was sort of a remembrance of him. That's for, you know, the reason why I call this whole channel, this, you know, the honey business I'm doing. It's the reason why I call it Papaw's Harvest, is for my Papaw. He started beekeeping whenever he was a kid, and there's an article that you can go and check out on my Facebook page with it, where our local newspaper actually did a little story on him. And he started beekeeping as a kid, and it talked about him, which he's told me the story before, where he went out and he realized that there was a swarm in an apple tree that was in their yard whenever he was a kid. And so he went out and he grabbed his mother's apron, wrapped it around his face and around his head to keep him from stinging him. And he climbed the apple tree to go get the bees. And he took them down, put them in a box. And that's what started his, you know, his hobby and his love for bees. But he did it for over 60 years off and on. And, you know, it's something that I'll, you know, in moments like that and, you know, moments with him is something that I'll always cherish. But yeah, that's pretty much, you know, my reasons why. You know, I believe a lot in family and a lot in the moments that we spend with each other. And, you know, so that's kind of where I'm wanting to go with this. But, you know, I just wish that my grandfather was here to actually see what I'm doing, see everything that I'm, you know, kind of putting together in this, and to also help me, you know. He passed along some of that knowledge whenever I was a kid, and but it's one thing learning about it, and then another thing actually getting out there and doing it. So, but come April, bees will be here, and I'll be getting started. You know, hopefully, you know, we'll get some honey out of them, and you know, my granddad always said, you know, you take care of the bees and they'll take care of you. So they'll provide you with it. So guys, that's pretty much it for today. I'm going to be trying to post a little bit more often. I know I haven't here in a little while. Just been trying to get everything up and going and stuff like that, get Facebook established, get YouTube established. But keep an eye out. I'm going to try to post at least one video a month for now. But yeah, be sure to hit the like button, subscribe. That helps this thing out, helps me keep doing this, helps me, you know, just be there for, you know, upcoming beekeepers and, you know, help kind of share some knowledge. And, you know, if you're a beekeeper yourself, share some knowledge with me down in the comments. You know, I'm out here on my own, but I know a little bit, but not enough to, and I'm sure in 50 years or so, and I'm still doing this, I'll say, you know, I still don't know it all. I think that's a good way to be. But yeah, guys, be sure to hit the like, comment, subscribe, and head on over to my Facebook page. Be sure to follow me on there. I do try to post some stuff every now and then, you know, just some bee facts and stuff like that. But yeah, so keep an eye out for some more content, and we will be talking to you guys soon. See you guys.